My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Horrible Bosses 2. Now, this is a movie that I watched back in 2014, and I remember being really let down by it. I didn't really like it at all, but I just rewatched it for the first time since, and this is better than I expected, while still not being as good as the original. It's a perfectly fine comedy sequel. And just like my review for the first movie, I will be talking about specific funny moments that made me laugh. So if you haven't seen this movie, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review because I will be discussing spoilers. But some moments that made me laugh really hard in this movie was the entire element of the company being called Nick, Kurt, and Dale, the three characters, them naming a company after themselves, and then what it sounds like if you say it really fast, which I'm not going to do, but that provided some nice humor. That joke in the beginning when he's just like, why would you call it a buddy shower? Nobody showers with a buddy. Why not call it a daddy shower? And then they're like, nobody showers with their dad. I thought that was really funny. When Jason Sudeikis is hiring all these girls based only on their looks, and Jason Bateman's just like, you know, you can't sleep with them, right? Because you're the boss. And Jason Sudeikis is like, what? Okay, well then let's fire them. And Jason Bateman's like, well, you can't do that either. That's also sexual harassment. That was a really funny moment. And then when they're talking about Sandra Bullock and Speed, and Charlie Day's just like, fuck you, I love Sandra Bullock. I thought that was a really funny moment. Every time they'll write on the board, murder, kidnapping, and then they realize they did it with a Sharpie and it can't be erased. That was a really funny joke. And then the scene where they break into the dentist's office and they keep saying Nick's name over the radio and Jason Bateman's getting pissed off, but then people start coming into the office and they're still holding their hands over the walkie-talkies and he's trying to warn them, and that was a really funny moment too. At the end, when they're trying to get chased by the cops and then they just barely make it past the train, and then they're like, woo! Can't believe we did that! And Jason Bateman's just like, we're not trying to lose the cops. And they're like, wait. So then they back up and they wait for the cops to chase him again. That was a really funny moment. The scene where Chris Pine is punching himself in the face repeatedly, and they're just like, oh shit, he's fight clubbing himself. He's fight clubbing himself. That was really funny. And also when we get what their plan is and how perfect everything looks, and the actual execution of that plan, and how the costumes look nowhere near as good, I thought that was also really funny. This movie does have some really funny moments that made me laugh out pretty loud. But the reason why this movie isn't as good as the first movie is because some of the writing is really bad. Charlie Day was the over-the-top dumb character in the first movie, and I feel like everybody got a bit dumber in this second movie, especially Jason Sudeikis, because he got really dumb in this movie. I always talk about the acceptability of stupidity in movies. How much stupidity are you willing to accept in movies? And there's a point where you're laughing, ha ha ha, the main characters are so stupid, that's funny. But there's a certain point where you cross that line and instead you start getting frustrated by how dumb the main characters are. And the movie crosses that line a few times in this movie. Like, they do the worst possible thing every chance they get. And at first it's kind of funny, but sometimes it just gets so frustrating. Like the cops asking them a few questions and Charlie Day is just like, oh, we didn't kidnap anyone. And they're just like, I didn't mention anything about a kidnapping. Or when Jason Sudeikis is just like, oh, what did he say? Oh, he's got blood on his pants. And it's just like, why would you say that? Like, that's not funny to me. It's just frustrating because at that point, you're asking me to be on board with the story. I just feel like the characters act a bit too stupid too often. All the returning supporting characters from the first movie just didn't have a role in this movie. It feels like fan service and it wasn't needed. Kevin Spacey had no role in this movie, despite his performance being good. Jennifer Aniston and her subplot just takes away from this movie. Every time that subplot appears, it just feels so detached. That entire hotel room sequence was awful. It was cringeworthy. And then Motherfucker Jones, every time he appears, it's just like, why? He's not needed anymore. And in fact, his appearance actually takes away from the finale because the idea of getting back to Chris Pine's location before he does was a really smart idea. And if the three main characters came up with it instead of Motherfucker Jones, then it would have been enough redemption for all the stupidity that they've done within this movie. but instead they give that to someone else, and I just don't think his addition added anything here. That said, the new addition of Chris Pine and Christoph Waltz were really great, especially Chris Pine. Chris Pine is absolutely hilarious in this movie. He steals the show every time he's on screen. I love how over the top he is, and his comedic beats are just perfect. I thought he was a fantastic addition to this main cast, and the 3 main cast members are still really good. They do a good job in this movie, just some of the writing behind them wasn't as good. And I will say, I do like how Chris Pine does end up being caught with the ringtone being War by Katy Perry. I thought that was really well set up, and there are certain directions that I like that they took this story. The whole idea of them starting a business and them still getting screwed over, kind of showing how you can always be screwed over by someone. I like the idea. I do like the story here. And I do think there is a lot of funny moments, but some of the writing here was a huge step down in quality. So because of that, I still enjoyed this movie. I still had fun with it, but it's not as good as the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and give Horrible Bosses 2 a 6.5 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Horrible Bosses 2? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.